Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. We have a goodie bag, we'll open that later. And that is directly thank you to Dawn Marie for the very generous donation, which has enabled me yet again to come back with some goodies from an orchid visit. Yeah, get tangled up here. Right. So that's what we were up to yesterday, Mathers Foundation visit. That'll be the last one this year until they announce their open days for next year. Something I might join in with next year just for the experience, even though I've got no intention of doing any of that sort of thing yet, is they experimented with a orchid society. So like a captive audience, and then they did another one yesterday afternoon, open to the general public, so whoever got in first and wanted to join in. It's a propagation workshop at a very active nursery whose devotion to propagation, cultivation and conservation and everything is what they do. So yeah, I might give that a go next year. As I say, I don't have any long-term plans to go into that sort of thing. I'm not patient enough. But there are certain types of orchids, which we might be looking at in a minute, that actually mature to flowering size a lot quicker than some of the others. I mean, if you look at, say you produced a Cattleya hybrid, you've got the seed, you've got to wait 6 to 9 months for the seed to mature. And the plant's got to be healthy enough to actually produce that pod, and they've got to be viable. So that, you know, you could lose before you've even got anything. And then you've got to get them in a flask and get them to germinate, and then, you know, eventually you get some tiny little plantlets out of a flask and pop them up. And with a Cattleya, you're probably 6 years, maybe even 7 or 8 with some of them. It's a long time, a lot of mucking around, and I might not even be around that long, so no. But, as I say, there are a couple of genera where the maturing process is a lot faster, and maybe, who knows, maybe we'll have a go. But we shall see. You know, these things are there to tempt us. What else? Lovely day again, as always. Now I went there with ulterior motives this time. Last time I went there with the Orchid Society, so you've got the social side and the chatting to people you know and all that sort of stuff going on. And I didn't get a huge amount of filming done, but I did get enough to satisfy those who like those sort of videos. This time I bailed out of the introduction. Apologise first, of course. Don't just walk away, do you? But I said, as I've sort of heard this quite a few times before, is it okay if I wander off and film before the people get in the way? Yeah, help yourself. So that's what I did. So I dedicated most of my filming this time to the Masdevallias, which I couldn't get at last time because they were surrounded by people. I just couldn't. It's like an orchid show, you can't get in there. And then when you get in there, you're stuck, one here, one there. You can't, you know, I like to wander along gently and pan along. That's how I like to do my videos. So anyway, I got the Masdevallias filmed nicely, and then I remembered with the Pleione house this time to not go, because they split us into 2 groups, not go with the first group, because you get kicked out. You go with the second group, you can stay behind, which is what I did. So I had plenty of chance to film the 2 things that I couldn't do very well last time. So that was good, and I did a very small amount of filming of the Odont's house, just picking on a few of the things that appeal to me, which I will probably not even do as a video. I'll probably do them as stills and add them on the end somewhere. Somewhere. Not on today's video though. So yes, a good day. I overestimated my journey time by quite a lot, influenced quite badly and forgetting, you know, we're getting on a bit, Normally when I head off in that direction I pick Lynn up. Well, you've got a nice motorway running along here, which I come off and go along little A roads, pick up Lynn, more little A roads, roundabouts, traffic lights, blah 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 blah, until I get back on the motorway. This time, wallop, I didn't have to pick Lynn up. And it knocked quite a lot off of my journey time, and I got to a point where there's a lay-by that's always got motorbikes in it. And it's always interested me, and this time I slowed down and pulled into the entrance, and there's like a cafe type thing, not a sit down cafe, a open hatch sort of thing that does burgers and sandwiches and cakes and all that, and coffee. And at that time of day I thought, I'm well early, I'm going to stop and pull in. So there were some beautiful bikes there. Whiteways I think the place is called, and it's obviously a known stop on the South Downs for bikers. When I came back after the visit, the car park was full. I mean, the time of day I was there was still relatively early, but there were some lovely bikes there. Beautiful bikes, proper bikes, not meh, 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 meh. You know, those bikes that go up the road, meh, 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 and they're still only doing 20 miles an hour. No, these are proper bikes, good bikes. And what I call proper bikers, which for me tends to be the older bikers that have just always ridden a bike rather than got a car. Anyway, so we had a stop off, we had a hot sausage roll and a coffee, and a sit in the sunshine for sort of 20-25 minutes to use up the time so that I didn't get there too early. And then on to Mathers, where we had we took advantage this time of not getting sidetracked. So we had a maple syrup and pecan slice and a cinnamon whirl, and that set me up for the rest of the day. It's my two favourite pastries. So that was good, and a nice coffee, so that set me up for the day. Now the plan was afterwards to actually go back to the pub that we went to with the Orchid Society prior to the visit last time, actually go there afterwards and have a pub lunch and a nice real ale, and then set off home at a leisurely pace. But in actual fact my favourite snooker player was playing yesterday afternoon, playing again this afternoon, which is why I'm filming early, get all this nonsense out of the way, get on to the serious stuff. Yeah, I mean, even though that was only a half day yesterday, I mean the tour is only 2 hours, but you know, you're looking at an hour and a half drive in either side of that, which in my case with some added on at the beginning and at the end. So you know, it still makes quite a long day of it. So I was quite tired, but not ridiculously tired. Poor friend Helen, I think she was actually dribbling in the Pleione house because it's one of her favourite types of orchids, and she obviously hadn't seen anything like that before. So she stayed behind with me and chatted to David quite a bit about the Pleiones. And she turned round a little bit quick and twisted her back. So unfortunately she left perhaps a bit more abruptly than she would have liked to, and got home, had to have a hot water bottle and painkillers and stuff and settled down. And the funny thing, which I thought was funny, I don't know what I'm going to say it anyway, blow it. When we got there, we were chatting, and she said, I've forgotten it's our wedding anniversary. I've completely forgotten it. Now, I've heard of men forgetting wedding anniversaries. I think they do it on purpose. But I haven't heard of the lady forgetting it before. She just went ahead and booked this and just forgot about her wedding anniversary. So I think she's in the doghouse. But anyway, so that was the visit, and this time I remembered right at the last minute, just literally as I was going out the door thinking of leaving, it suddenly dawned on me I hadn't seen the Disas. So I grabbed Jim and I said, where are the Disas? Where have you got them hidden away? Oh, they're over here, come and have a look. So we went and had a look at the Disas. They are all single plants in their own individual pots in a lovely water tray, which was like shiny silver, like aluminium or something, but a stainless steel it would have been, of course. And the water was spotless, crystal clear. Mine's not. And Jim did say they've got an RO unit on the front of it, so it's effectively rainwater getting filtered prior to getting there, so it's pure water, and it was spotlessly clean. So it obviously gets changed a lot more frequently than I do. Point number one. And several other pointers. The business of leaving old media on, no. Replace the media. Give the roots new media. Split the little plants off. Yes, they can go in a community pot, but then pot them on after the growing season, ready for either the following season or the one after to bloom. Jim said they've already sold a couple in bloom in April, and several of the ones there had spikes starting. So I am miles behind everybody else, because Alan said his are pushing up as well. Mine aren't, mine are going slow. So things need to change with the Disas, otherwise I'm going to lose even more. Now, I can't repot them all. You know, we did one. We actually took one out of its pot, separated all the plants out. So I've got 3 of the larger pieces, individual plants in their own pot, and the rest in a little community pot, the small pieces. So I've done one. But they still don't seem to be progressing at any rate of knots. I will get some blooms this year on some of the other pots, I'm sure. But mine are well behind everybody else's. Now, it can't be temperature, and it can't be day lengths. So, what is it then? The one thing I did notice where Jim has got the Disas, boy was the shading heavy overhead. Now I got a bit of a conflict because several people have told me they need good light. You know, not sunlight or anything like that, but some people put them outside in the garden in the summer where they do actually get some sun. So I'm thinking, you know, they're up the brighter end of the grow room, they should be okay. But then others have got them quite heavily shaded, based on the fact that they grow on Table Mountain, on the slopes, not on the necessarily on the top, in little ravines and gullies where there's water runoff coming down, you know, from the mountain top, often sitting with their roots actually in the running water. Hence the pure clean water. It's come, you know, it's come down from the mountain. So yeah, I think with my Disas the main point is I need to clean up my act. And the first thing I'm going to do, not today, today is what I call my big video of the week, which still seems to be the most popular one. Grateful for that, obviously. At least there's one that still gets quite a few views. But I have noticed in the last couple of months, the old 1,000 view video seems to have gone now. I don't get them anymore. Now the Sunday chat, you could almost guarantee used to get 1,000 views. Sometimes that's 600-700, but because I don't film on Monday, I often get some more, like, you know, later on in the day on Monday. So, but yeah, the views are there. If I look back on the older videos, the views are still there, but they're not what I call instant. They're not during the 24-hour period following posting, because I do post quite frequently. Some people on YouTube have actually said that can be your downfall if you post too often, because people will just think, oh, it's more of the same, and might wander off to other channels. Now, I've got no problem with people going to other channels. Variety is good, yeah? Not sticking to one thing. But maybe I do post too often. Maybe I should have a couple of extra days off here and there. We shall see. These are all food for thought. Those sort of things I always talk over with Hannah. I don't make those decisions on my own. Yeah, so clean up the Disas. So what does that mean? First of all, from advice, they get watered from the top, not rely on it soaking up from the tray. which means they get watered with fresh, clean water, which is in effect a flush. Disas hate any build-up of anything. They like pure, clean water, preferably moving. Now, I'm not going to do a setup with running water or anything like that, mainly because the Disas will probably eventually get split up, and there will be some that will be in here because they're in bloom, some will be outside. They'll end up in smaller trays to be transported around and moved around. So obviously I can't do a moving water setup, but what I can do is change the water a lot more often. Now that's got to be done. And we water from the top on a regular basis so that they get a flush through. My water is always stained brown from the peat, yeah? It's not clear. Now, the water at Mathers, that, the tray that Jim showed me, it was crystal clear. There wasn't an inkling of colour, which means obviously the peat that they were growing in was getting flushed through, yeah? I presume they were in peat, I forgot to ask. You might have switched them over to that coir stuff that they're using most other places, like the Cymbidiums now. They used to use a mix of peat bark and perlite, that sort of thing, and they've changed from peat for obvious reasons to go, their intention is to go as green as they possibly can. So they've changed to the peat for coir. Which Jim said is fine. The Cymbidiums are doing great in it. But anyway, I've used peat. Maybe if he's using coir for the Disas instead of peat, maybe that's a cleaner material and doesn't release a stain. If any of you have ever seen a peat bog, the water, if there's any standing water around, is dark brown. Yeah? And I get brown stain quite bad. So I'm going to start watering from the top on a pretty regular basis to make sure that the peat in the pots is flushed through, which should help remove the staining, yeah? Because the peat I've used has never been flushed effectively. They got watered, the peat was made wet to be able to use it, and then they were stood in the tray of water. So they've only been able to soak water up. They've never had any going the other way. So we're going to start doing that for a start. And we'll do it relatively frequently. And the idea is that they get watered from above, and then that water is not stood in the tray. That water is discarded. Well, I can use it for something else. And then fresh water is put in the tray for them to stand in, so they're always in clean water. So that's the idea. And when they have a little bit of feed, that goes in the tray, not poured through the pot. So some changes, that's for that. What else? The Pleiones, we had Pleiones. Oh! I've forgotten already. I've just done a whole section on something that I'm saying wrong. They're not Disas, they're Disas. And that, after a long chat with a lady that comes from where they come from and is actually South African. Well, you don't argue with somebody who comes from the area and knows of them growing in the wild just up the road. If that's how they pronounce it, then that's how it should be pronounced. So I've got to try and remember, because I've spent years calling them Disas. They're Disas. Yeah. You've got the same problem with the next ones I wanted to talk about. The Pleiones. Are they Pleiones or Pleiones? I've always thought of them as Pleiones, but I've heard them pronounced Pleiones, and from somebody who's got the National Collection who pronounces it Pleione, I'll run with that. So that one's going to be easier for me to pick up. Yeah, the Disas may take a little while to change. I'll probably end up saying it wrong. I'll try and say it right as much as I can. Anyway, the Pleiones, I think the important thing there was that to bulk those bulbs up, they need quite high feed. David Mathers was saying he's feeding at 1,000 microsiemens. Well, in TDS terms, that's about 600-700. That's higher than I feed my Cymbidiums. This is incredibly high feed levels. And he said they take it and they use it and they bulk up the bulbs into huge bulbs, much bigger than prior to them feeding at those levels. So yeah, that was good. Now, they inherited the Ian Butterworth Pleione collection. And believe it or not, that guy was there yesterday. Now, he was there in the gap, I believe, to be presented with a very special national award, which I've forgotten the name of, because I only heard it said once. You know what I'm like, I'm forgetful. But anyway, he wasn't well enough to go and collect it where it should have been presented, so they agreed to present him with it yesterday at the Mathers Foundation. But the basis of the Pleione National Collection at Mathers is based on Ian Butterworth's original collection. He's responsible for so many wonderful hybrids, it's quite incredible. And now they are continuing the work, because obviously Mathers are now producing their own hybrids from the basis that they've got. And therein comes the possibility of propagation on the grounds that they can mature a lot quicker. Yeah. So if you've got bulb number 1 in flower, like the couple that I had, flowers have gone, they've grown their leaves, they should grow some bulbils as well as the new growth that had the flower on it, which has now got a leaf on it. That will form a nice big bulb, providing it gets fed well, ready for next year. But which will then produce a new growth, which will flower. Yeah, let's get this sequence right. But bulbils can be produced as well, you know, like on your daffodils and your snowdrops and bluebells and stuff. So it's the same principle, they are bulbs effectively. And the number of bulbils you get depends on the strength of the bulb producing them. So obviously the bigger and fatter and well fed that it is, the more likely it is to produce bulbils, which is how your collection increases. So yeah, and my friend Alan, you've seen me film his greenhouses if you go back. I haven't been there for a while filming, but yeah, it's where we have our garden party in the summer. My friend Helen has got quite a little collection of Pleiones with quite a lot of bulbils. Where did she get them from? Alan dug them out of his garden. Well, I didn't even know he had any. That's because they're in the garden, not in the glass houses. We will be having words and see if some can be dug up and thrown in my direction. We shall see. But yeah, these are another orchid that can go outside for a reasonable amount of the year. And they can go outside for a lot longer than some of the others, on the grounds that they can go down to 2 or 3 degrees without any harm whatsoever, as long as what they're sat in is not soaking wet. And they are growable outside with some frost protection. I don't know what protection Alan gives him. I know where they're planted, I know where they are. They're in the front garden under 2 quite large conifers. So they are sheltered by an evergreen tree. Yeah, so maybe that is all the protection they need. Anyway, we can have a collection of those. They don't take up a lot of room. Blooms are gorgeous, and the hybridisation program that Mathers are doing, I just said to David, what's your main goal? And he said, well, the obvious really, bigger flowers, brighter colours and lasting longer, because some of them are quite short-lived. So that's coming soon, well, in orchid terms soon. Right, so that was that. I need to sort my Disas out, yeah. What else? Not much going on here that's apart from increasing the frequency of the watering, and we are about to have a hot week. South of England is expected to get 24, 25, 26 degrees, possibly 27, which for England in April is almost unheard of. Mind you, it'll be May by the time it gets to the middle of next week. But yeah, we're in for quite a hot week, so obviously I've got to keep up with the watering outside as well as in here. But it will, if it's going to be that warm during the day, the chances are it'll be a lot warmer at night, which means this place doesn't cool down so much, which means the heater's not on so much. Good. It also means I won't need the heating on possibly at all in the house. That's what jumpers are for. But I will have to keep up with the watering now. You know, it is growing season now, despite my north-facing arrangement. We shall see. When I got home yesterday, when I go out, I shut the door. I don't want Mojo out here on his own. He might eat half the plants. Cats chew on green stuff, you know. So the door was shut. When I got home yesterday afternoon, it was 23 degrees out here. That was without any heat from the house. So it had done that naturally. So the sun on the roof, midday sun, is starting to push a bit of heat in here, which means the door will have to start being shut, because if it's open we start getting warmer. I'm going to lose my humidity into the house. I don't want it in the house, I want it out here. So we will shut it out here, and we might even need to get our humidifier going and get that going. We shall see. Right, how's my coffee doing? That's how I judge how long the video is how cold my coffee is. Quite cold. So we will stop waffling because we've got some new orchids, and you're going to like these. Some will go, not a lot, but this is what I got, and as I said, this was with the very generous donation from Dawn Marie. Not the first, I might add. We had donations to go to Wisley as well, which again allowed me to bring home some plants. So I'm going to get the Manky Hannah Cymbidium out of the way. We don't have any plants on the table while that's there. That's going to go outside next week. It's virtually finished blooming. The sooner it goes out the better, then I don't have to keep moving it all the time. Right, I'm just going to swing the camera around and move it a bit closer. So we'll turn it round, bring it in a bit and lower it down a bit so that you can see what's going on. And we have an unbagging session. How are we doing there? Is that a... Oh, I better go up a bit, otherwise when I lift stuff out of the bag you'll lose sight of it. And I'll hold up the blooms. It's something I do. I very rarely buy a plant that's not in bloom, simply because there is variables even with a known actual species. So you know what you're going to get, there's still variables, so I like to see the plant in bloom. I had a chat with Jill Mathers about the plants that I'd chosen. They didn't have a huge number of these for sale, but they had some. And I thought, well, we'll have some. So we will start with this one. Now you might not like this genus, but look at the colours on that. Look at the vibrance of the colour and the gorgeous patterning on the lip and the frilliness of the lip. How can you not like these? Now these have got moss in the mix. They're in the traditional moss, small bark and perlite mix, which is what Jim uses for them. And I will probably do the same because it's a mix I can easily knock up. I've got the moss, I've got the bark, I've got the perlite, so we can carry on using that. And David Mathers is looking into not unpotting them all in the autumn and keeping them dry through the winter. He's looking at actually leaving them in situ a lot of the time. He thinks they start a bit earlier the next year and they get going quicker and better as a consequence, providing the media is still okay and hasn't gone off. But why did I grab that plant? Well, it's obvious, isn't it? As I said to Jill, blow the blooms, look at the plant. It's got 2 shoots, so I've already doubled the number. Here's the old bulb here. We've got our 2 new shoots with our flowers and our leaves just starting. So we should get at least 2 blooms next year as well. Now I've got names for these. This one is Pleione Vicky, and its hybridization, what it's made up of, is actually on the tag. So providing this stupid thing will focus, you should be able to see that. Yeah? So this is a species crossed with what looks like a naturally occurring hybrid. So there's 3 elements in there. So there we go, that's that one. Well pleased with that. And that's light as a feather, that needs some water now. So that's that one. Well, you can guess what the other one is then, can't you? This one's got its own little bag. Oh, I know why, because I bought this one right at the beginning. When I walked in the door and I saw a little group of, I think there was only 3, on the table, you know, where the sort of sales are, and I was there about 10 past 10, so I was 20 minutes early to make sure I got first go at the cakes. And as a consequence, I looked and I thought, if those are for sale, I'm having one now, because they might go quickly and I might not get another chance. So I grabbed that one and Jill bagged it up ready to go. Well, she didn't know I might be getting another one, so that's why this one got its own separate bag, which is nice. Ooh. And has this one got 2 new growths? Of course it has. I'm just digging the tag out because it's fallen out of the pot. See, now this pot is quite heavy. This pot is wet. See, the moss is green. And we've got the same again, a bulb with 2 new growths. And I hope the camera can pick that up. But the petals and sepals are the most delicate shade of lilac. They're not white. They look it from a distance until you get close. They are a gorgeous, delicate lilac colour. Very delicate as well, almost white. And then you've got that lovely gold in the lip with the tons of frilliness again. So that was the other one I got, and this one again is registered. It's got a name, and this is a hybrid crossed with a species, and the species it's crossed with is one I've actually got. That was one of the first 2 that I got at Wisley. So there we go, that's what that one is. And the Formosana is a species I've actually got. So I've actually got part of the makeup of this one. So that's what I bought. Being Mathers, they weren't cheap. But as I said, we are starting a collection. I wish I could read that. Oh well, I've got the name of it, that's the important thing. Right, so that's the 2 that I bought. Well pleased, well pleased. And that means I now have a collection of 4. And I am, either this autumn or during the winter or whatever, I'm virtually guaranteed to be able to get 2 or 3 more at least, I would say. And come my visit to Mathers next year, which I will be doing of course, I believe they will have quite a lot more variety for sale, because they will have bulked up during this growing season, so they might have more surplus perhaps. So that's the new orchids. Well pleased with that, and that needs water thrown at it. And tomorrow I won't be filming anything out here, and tomorrow we will be spending some time watering the cymbidiums. Let's get that done and get it out of the way. They're a day late. They should have been done yesterday. I'm not doing them today. Actually no, they should have been today. So they'll be a day late. No big deal. We haven't got to the warmer weather yet. And soon we will be starting to either repot or pot on some of the cymbidiums. I've got 2 that have finished flowering, and one of those has got 2 new growths pushing on, you know. So now's a good time. Get the media, either get it into a larger pot to grow on. If it's one of mine that I've had through last year's growing season, then it was repotted at the beginning of last year. So it won't need repotting, but it might need a bigger pot. So we might be doing a pot on. We've got the big pots ready to go, so we'll be doing that sort of thing. And tomorrow I'm going to have a good go at the Disas. They are going to get a good flush, and I don't care if I use all my RO water, they are going to get flushed right through thoroughly. And all the water that comes out the bottom of those pots is going out in the garden. It's, you know, it's going to get discarded. A proper good flush. And then I might go back an hour or 2 later and do it again. I want them flushed right through into pure clean water. And then we will put clean water in the bottom of the tray. It's taking a lot of water, that big tray. What we might do is actually take the bull by the horns tomorrow and actually get the Disas set up in the smaller seed trays. It has to be 2, one inside the other for the strength, because when you lift them with the water in, they're still quite heavy. But those seed trays will take 6 of those larger pots. And if I'm going to start splitting them up more, there will be less need for the larger pots. You can grow on into them, yes, but yeah, when I told Jim about, you know, you've got a pot full of plants, tear them into 4 and plant each piece in the middle of another pot without taking any of the old media off, I saw his face, he frowned basically, so he disapproved. Now that might be how somebody else grows them and they're doing okay, but you wonder sometimes how okay are they doing? Are they getting losses as a consequence? Yeah? Who knows? So that's it for today, apart from the thank yous for supporting the channel as always on Sundays, and especially the financial support. That leads to things like this. And the trip, the fuel and everything else that goes into getting these. We don't buy much online nowadays. I've gone off that idea a bit lately. I like to get hold of things and pick them up and see what I'm getting. So that's yeah. So thanks for all the support. Thanks for watching the videos. Don't forget the old thumbs up. A lot more important than it used to be from YouTube's view of the channel, obviously. And thanks for people who watch the videos on the other channel as well, the gardening and bonsai video. There's going to be a bit more filming going on over there. I won't always bring the videos across and post them here as well. It depends. If I've got a gap or something, like yesterday, I was out all day so I didn't film, so I brought one of the gardening videos across so that there was something to look at. But yeah, there's going to be some bonsai and a bit of gardening work to do this coming week, so take advantage of the warmer weather. I need to clean up all the bonsai pots, get the moss out, clean them up and perhaps top dress them with some nice ornamental grit. And in that nice weather I might work outside on the table, take my tray out there and the camera and my tools. Yeah, make a nice change, won't it? I might need a hat on. Getting a bit, the thatch is getting thin. And anyway, thanks for being here today, and thanks for all your support, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.